Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You can get a job in the Middle East simply by trying or by magic, through others, or by fluke. Remember that competition is everywhere. Some here, some there, but bam! Loy Macedo is the best.
Now this first incident that happened is pretty fresh in my mind. But this had happened around, I think, how many? 5, 6? Close to, say, 6 years ago or so. 6 or 8 years ago. Okay. Now what had happened was, to give you a backstory, the guy who I'm talking about occupied a very big position in this company called Acer. Acer, you know, laptops, Acer computers. Now he worked there for, he worked there from donkey years. You're talking of, I don't know, 15, 20 years he worked with Acer. Okay. I don't know the exact, but he worked for a long time since the company set up in the Middle East. He had been working for them. Indian guy. Now, you know, obviously any brand that starts off in a market that is growing, it will eventually grow with it. So it kept growing, it kept expanding, and then obviously they started recruiting more people. And this is where they started to bring in, you know, the first line of employees are always Indians, and Indians work their ass off. No matter what I may say or you may say or anyone would say, oh, they are this, they are that, or, you know, even being an Indian myself, I sometimes make fun of our Indians. Oh, they sound funny, smell funny, this and that. But I'll tell you, in terms of hard work, in terms of effort, nobody can match Indians. Some of them are like, oh, unbelievable. They don't believe in work-life balance. So the common story in the Middle East is, after Indians, they join, they make the company reach a level. And then for some reason, these Emiratis or the upper management, whether it's Goras or all of a sudden they are brought in, and then they come out with this new jackass stupid idea. Okay, let's make it multinational, let's make it global, this thing, let's call more Goras, let's call in Arabs, Lebanese, Syrian, let's penetrate into the market more, which is not a problem. But then when you start bringing in new management, and they try to reinvent the wheel, and they forget the roots, they forget what made them successful in the first place, that is where you divert yourself from the goal. And I don't know the exact nationality, but he was an Arab guy. Arab means maybe Lebanese or maybe Syrian or whatever. And mind you, this is nothing to attack Lebanese and Syrians, okay? I'm just telling you the story the way it is. And it's a true story because this guy became my client. He was at a very top position. Now this guy who was my client had joined from zero and landed up to a very high ranking post. Now the guy was appointed above him. He was actually supposed to get the position of the top position of Acer. But instead of that, they decided to employ this guy who was like, I think Lebanese or Syrian. And this guy had studied in abroad in London or US or whatever. So he had this clout about him. I'm superior to these other people, especially Indians. And you know, our Indians are kind of simple. They don't show off, they don't have style, they don't drive expensive cars, they believe in saving money. So this guy, he was very hyper ambitious, hyper show off, and you know, he was actually looking down on people. So then until that time, this guy was working with Acer. He was a South Indian guy, and those days Lulu, you know, Lulu, it was Lulu and Carrefour were just starting. The race had just begun. And what he had done was, he had very politely, you know, teamed up with Lulu and Carrefour to sell the laptops. If you know, those days laptops used to sell in Carrefour and Lulu. And Lulu and Carrefour, because they were more or less the monopoly, both of them, they used to charge a very high profit margin, very unreasonable terms, demands. You need to pay this fee, you need to pay that, you need to give so much of freebies, you need to give so much of special discount and all that. But in order to keep the product on the shelf in front of the customer, this guy being, South Indian, and the Lulu, the entire management of Lulu, top guys are Malayalis. So he always, stuck up to them and kept them happy, nurtured their ego, and so they allowed. So Acer was doing fine. But after this guy came, this Arab guy came at the top, he suddenly decided, no, ours is a global brand, fuck you. We are going to make it global. We don't have to bow our heads for anyone. Acer is a global brand. What the fuck is this cheap, he didn't say Indian, this cheap, shitty brand or whatever. He's saying we are global, we are not regional or whatever. So during the meeting, he had told him, see, listen, we're getting a good, we may not make profit, but at least we have a market share. He said, the Arab guy said, nothing doing, you don't teach me and this and that and whatever. So then they had a meeting with the Lulu main guy, because he was a big guy, purchase guy or assistant purchase guy agreed to beat him. And that is where he kind of disrespected him. He tried to take a very hard stance, trying to tell them that we are a global brand. We're going to all big talk. We're going to re-strategize. So we are inviting you to partner with us. He was telling Lulu, we're inviting you to partner with us. And then he started putting, imagine, Acer used to pay money to these guys to keep their products. This guy is saying, he made it sound like we are doing you a favor by keeping Acer there. You should be grateful, this and that brands like us. Others, if there are no brands, nobody will come. So the purchase guy kept quiet. He didn't say anything. He said, we'll get back to you. So that Arab guy felt very proud and, we showed them and this and that. And this guy was like, he banged his head. He was like, we are gone. Means he didn't do it in front of him. Subsequently, within a few days, they got a memo from Lulu. I'm sorry, but we have to discontinue your products. You can pick up your products, take it. The Acer guy was like, oh, fuck you. We don't care. We can do it without him. Now, the funny thing is, Lulu kept growing strength to strength. It just expanded. If you know, the first place that they had opened was Karama. That was where they had started. Those of you who have been in UAE many years know that. From Karama, they went every place, man. Karama was where they actually started their, Abu Dhabi was where they started, but Karama was Dubai, where they actually started their success. And Yusuf Ali was unstoppable. Soon, supermarkets started mushrooming, then hypermarkets, then literally the whole, like a massive complex, So they were expanding, and Acer's shares were declining because they didn't come out with any innovative products. They were dying, like everything from IBM to Asus to all of them, they were dying in the Middle East market. HP also was suffering. And new brands are coming out like Lenovo, then Samsung, and and they were, it's like the second-hand market was thriving in UAE those days. So Acer got really badly hit, and with the hit in sales, their revenue started to decline, and with that, this top guy, was under pressure. So what did he do? Well, when your sales are declining, revenues are down, the only thing you can do is play the blame game, right? So he started blaming guys left, right and center. He started telling them, oh, you're to blame. Yeah, he started increasing their targets, putting pressure. And obviously, people don't want to take shit. On top of that, the biggest mistake he did was he employed his own nationality people. This has happened even with Petrofac. The Lebanese guy in Petrofac, appointed all the people from Lebanon, all the people from Syria, all the people, and he kicked out the Indians who made it happen. I'm not saying that Indians make things happen, but Indians, see, the thing is, they are very hardworking. They know that they have a family back home. They know that they have to literally struggle. So these guys, they fucked it up. You know, they come up with this hot blood and, oh, you know, they speak in Arabic, and because some of them are like slightly light skinned, they look down on Indians. They have this racist undertone. Not all. Especially these are Lebanese. I remember those days in UAE, if you say Lebanese, it was like, wow. It was like a, you know, Lebanese would always say, we are the French, we are the Europeans. So they were the Europeans wannabe of the Middle East. But now see the economy, decimated. They're literally like begging. And I'm not saying this gloating over them, but pride has its fall. You show off, you have arrogance, ignorance, you will be made to eat dust. So, you know, that's where Petrofac also collapsed. You know, it collapsed because you're bringing these idiots who just come to the office to show off, instead of employing guys who work their ass off. And you employ these new guys at a higher salary with lesser work and dump all excess work and lower salaries to Indians, Pakistanis, Sri Lankans. They're not going to work, man. So one by one, quality started to decline. Good people started to leave, and eventually the brand and the product and the service suffered. So same thing happened with Acer. So after Lulu gave Acer the bamboo, they were getting decimated badly. And see, Lulu, nobody could compete because every middle class, the majority, 80% population, was shopping at Lulu for good deals. So when you're buying there, if you see a laptop at cheap price or whatever, you'll not even check the price. On top of that, there was Jitex with the misleading sales and the second-hand market that was growing. So Acer got decimated. But now, this is the part of the story that is really shocking. Now, one by one, heads started to roll. And that is where, you know, they started having a clash of egos because he was the second most powerful guy. And so he would tell him, like, see, listen, your strategy is wrong, but someone had to tell him. So they started to have clashes. Then this continued for some time until one day, imagine this guy, Indian guy, has been with the company for, you know, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. He drove to the office in Jabal Ali. Okay? You know, obvious security guard opens a gate and all that. He drove the car, you know, because he's a big guy. So he parked his car in his parking spot. He went up to his office like normal, you know. He scanned the card and, you know, receptionist and morning sir, security guards, morning sir, this, that. And then he went up, secretary comes and puts all the files on his desk, and the office boy brings tea, coffee, whatever. All of a sudden, this guy gets a call. He gets a call, please come down at the, you know, reception, security. So he was like, for what? He's saying, no, the HR has to meet up with you. He said, why don't you come here? He's saying, no, we have to meet you there. It's urgent. So fine, he just stopped his work, whatever, because he knew he was going to be there for some time. Just took his cell phone, went down. Went down, he saw the HR person sitting there. And, you know, there was a sofa where, imagine at the reception, so he sits down there, he said, yeah, what happened? You know, he's wearing a suit and all. He said, this HR person, not even the manager, assistant, puts all the papers and said, please read this. So he's like, what is this? You know, sitting like a boss, he's wearing a suit. He had crossed his leg. He just looked at it. And there he found out he was terminated. He looked at the thing and all that, and they had used a clause. They had some sub-clause that they can terminate on whatever. And he was like, who authorized this? And then he found out that the big boss, the main guy, had terminated him. So he said, and then the assistant, the HR assistant says, please take all your things and leave. He said, what do you mean take all my things? Don't I have a, like, you know, don't I have to do the handover and properly? He said, no, you're not allowed to go up. And before you know it, they brought in the security guys. They asked him to hand over his, that tag, no? Hand over his tag, hand over everything to them. And he was not even allowed to go up to his desk. He said, what is all this? Imagine the security guards, the people who called him sir and spoke to him all these years. Now the very same people were being asked to escort him to his car and leave. Say, what about my stuff? He said, just whatever is there, just inform them. You're not allowed to go up. He was like, what? He found it so shocking. And then they informed him, stay here, we'll bring all your stuff and you can take whatever is yours. He found it so embarrassing. He was not even allowed to use the PC, not even allowed to say goodbye, nothing. Took all his stuff, put it in a box, whatever. And nobody was talking to him because they were given instructions not to. Took his stuff, sat in the car, drove home feeling so shocked. He was in a state of shock. He didn't know what was happening. And before you know it, his contract, they terminated. But they treated him like shit. He spoke to me about it. He said, he told me after that for nearly a month, it took him a month to get over the shock. He was so ashamed. He didn't even go out, didn't meet anyone, nothing. He was that badly affected. And it took him quite some time to get over it. Finally, this, I don't know, some of you would say karma or whatever. But Acer eventually ended up losing a massive market share. Last I knew that time, they closed down. Entire company, everyone got terminated, they closed down. They shut down the operations because it's not beneficial. I don't know if they have a skeleton staff or they have a presence anymore. But it's all over. Now, why am I sharing this story with you? Why am I sharing this incident? It is to let you know that, where in countries like the Middle East, where you do not have these human rights and... See, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that everybody in UAE is treated like this. No. There are many companies who, when you resign, they treat you with respect. Like I know my own personal contacts who have worked as directors for banks and all that. Close friends who I've known for years and years. They got, some got 6 months salary as a golden parachute. Some got 6 months plus bonus. Some made like enough money that they don't have to work for the next 2-3 years. So it's not everyone has had a bad time. But then again, it's like when shit has to happen, it doesn't inform you. It can just happen. So in this guy's case, the only lucky saving grace was he had a free zone visa. So he wouldn't get any ban, anything, and he had to sign the documents properly, take his gratuity. He got his salary, everything, gratuity. But it was a very sad thing, especially where you work for 15-20 years or whatever and you call it like your family, only to be thrown out like this. So, sadly, he was never able to recover from it. He tried his hand in many things. He just went, just surviving, just scraping through. But see, the main thing which I want to tell you through this video is, it is so important for you to, look ahead and plan out and see the warning sign before it actually comes, Don't be in your comfort zone and don't deny what is going to happen, because if you do, you're going to, when it does come, then there's no one you can blame, only yourself. So, unfortunately, this guy, because he had his 2 children and they were completing their college, he couldn't leave the Middle East. So he had to stay there for another 4-5 years. But those 4-5 years that he stayed, it ate into his savings, kind of hemorrhaged a lot, and he was never the same guy, the confident, the dynamic guy. Yeah, I lost in touch with him for quite some time after that. So anyway, I thought I'd share this story with you because this is a grim reminder of what the reality of the corporate world is, what the reality of being in the Middle East is. And like I tell people, don't mistake the Middle East as your home. It's only your home as long as you have money, as long as you're in power, because the day you lose this, it's bye-bye. The day you lose your money, your contacts, you lose your friends, so-called friends, where they'll wait for you, celebrate with you, talk to you like a family, all that vanishes. Then you wonder, fuck, did I just live an illusion, a matrix? And then the bigger question, what will you do next? Which some people, until it's too late, they choose not to answer. But one day when it comes face to face, then they don't know what to do. So anyway, this is what I wanted to share with you. Let me know your thoughts and comment down below. It's me signing off. Take care.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You can get a job in the Middle East simply by trying or by magic, through others or by fluke. Remember that competition is everywhere. Some here, some there, but bam! Loy Macedo is the best.